Hey guys, I am kind of at a remote location for a couple hours, so I am just trying to catch up on some mixes and a bunch of other stuff, and of course, being the procrastinator that I am, YouTube popped this video up of John McLucas, um, called "Why I Never Recommend Budget Audio Interfaces for Serious Home Studios," and you know that's the exact kind of thing that just screams out to me. So this is obviously this can be one of these things that I absolutely have to respond to, and I didn't really have a setup for responding and reacting and whatever. So trying to have this work, and I'm sorry that here this reverb is really bad, and I'm sure it sounds horrible, but hopefully, since I got the headset mic in, we're just gonna listen, and it should be okay. So let me carry on. Now, generally, I like John McLucas. He is a beardo, but he does a lot about writing songs. And since I don't know anything about writing songs or any of that stuff, I think it's a cool thing. He could be totally full of crap, but seems friendly enough. I was trying to get enough money to bring him down to the school so he could come down to Hawaii and hang out, and the kids could learn some songwriting stuff from him. And then, man, that summer got ugly fast, huh? Hello, whoever's out there. But I'm going to start this up and let's see. But yeah, he is a beardo, so there's that. So we got to keep an eye out.
If you have a Scarlett 2i2 or an interface similar to it, I need you to pay attention to this video. Especially if you take your craft seriously and want to record yourself really well at home in any
Hey, let me know if the audio is okay. I think the levels are about the same, but I don't know. Sorry.
capacity. Okay, now this isn't purely about the Scarlett. That's just the most common one. Anything that's like an under $400 to $600 interface that's 2 channels is going to have this problem. Like also goes for the very budget 8-channel interfaces. Again, the entry-level interfaces. If you have
Okay, so let's try and guess. Actually, I can't guess. What could these budget ones have that the other ones don't have? When he keeps saying 2 channel, so let's. Of course, you know me. I'm going to talk about loopback, so that's going to be huge. Not sure what else there is here. Maybe it's a combo jack and it's noisier or something. But yeah, let's just keep an eye.
Have one of those, and you are struggling with your recordings, you might be victim to this hidden cost, and I need to tell you about it more in depth because people don't understand how impactful it is, how much it can be doing to your music, to your end results, and to the songs that you are trying to put out. Let's unpack that. Really.
Okay, so this is a claim that these cheaper mic preamps or whatever, maybe it's not because it's cheap. Who knows what it is? They're going to do something that's going to make it hard for you to write. This is actually going to have an impact. And these are the things I worry about. I don't care about stuff that's not going to matter. But stuff that, if you're claiming this is going to have a big impact, this is important. So let's see what we got here exactly.
Cheerful start to the day, am I right? Hi, I'm John McLucas, a traveling pop producer, traveling the country all of 2022, making incredible music all along the way. So I wanted to talk about the most common interface that I've seen with any artist that I work with and the many issues that have come up with them. Because here's the thing. You probably got into it thinking, oh, this is the cheap option. This is what people recommend.
Okay, I'm 1 minute and 4 seconds into it. We have no idea what the problem is, but I think this is just how you make YouTube, right? So maybe I shouldn't complain.
So I'm going to go ahead and get that and stick to it. But you've probably run into a few issues doing so. And I'll say for me, I used to also be a fan of these interfaces. I'm actually recording on one right now for this video, although it's not my main interface anymore. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You go in to record,
We're 1 minute and 30 seconds in almost. And then we're about to get to the problem, I think. Let's try this again.
Gonna have trouble. Sounds familiar. You go in to record, you are gonna have troubles with a few different things. One being potentially you have turned your mic pre down all the way and you are still clipping. 2, you are trying to record and having the worst time because you have either tried the first method, which is to use your DAW and try to use their plugins to record and getting latency no matter how low you put the buffer size, Or two, you turn on the direct monitor function on one of those entry level interfaces and you find out, holy crap, this sucks. If
I'm kind of afraid what's about to happen here. Either you don't yeah, we're just gonna let them go. The clipping thing, that doesn't mean it's cheap. There are plenty of way too expensive things that'll clip. Earlier Focusrites, for instance. I know we're talking about Scarletts and stuff, but when we're talking about the rack-mounted units, not even the interfaces, even some of the mic preamps, they would clip on stronger guitars. Anything that's not getting full 28 volts on a mic preamp, you're kind of asking for it, right? But this isn't a function of cheap. That has nothing to do with how cheap something is. You could put a pad or not put a pad. Well, wasn't it last week I was asking everybody about these PreSonus things that were clipping? They're brand new and they're not among the cheapest ones. I know their budget and whatever, but I've seen the expensive ones do really crappy stuff. Look at, I don't know if I should say the name, but look at the most expensive and most well-known converter line out there. And when they made audio interfaces, I'm not even going to say it, but that's as far as I need to go, and that should be as far as I possibly have to go. We know about this company and what they say, what they may do as a reaction if I actually name them. But so the money sure as hell doesn't mean anything to clipping. Let's go on.
If you've had any of that happen, it is the interface's fault by default. Now, there's a reason they're so cheap, right? These are made to be the minimum viable product to get you moving. But if you're watching this video, you're probably a serious creator, you're probably a serious artist, and probably a serious vocalist, if not all, maybe two of those things.
Now, I know you're not going to talk about latency as a function of these cheap converters or cheap interfaces. Everything, no matter how goddamn expensive, uses the same drivers. The Sycon, Thesicon, whatever. Almost everything's using those, and I don't care if you're paying all the money in the world or none of the money. Unless you're RME, you're using these things. As far as I know, there may be another USB driver out there. For some reason, the Yamaha Steinberg USB driver seems to work a little bit better. It still could be Thesicon. Here's somebody who's actually built a chart, actually with all your guys' help out there, who's built a chart that actually measures the round-trip interface or round-trip latency of popular interface families. They're the same. Some guys get a little bit better implementation, but if you're running Thesicon drivers, you're running Thesicon drivers. They may have different features, and they may allow you to lock or unlock hidden safety buffers. And hey, if you're running a Mac, you can't even get to half of this stuff. So I wouldn't be complaining. You're running a Mac, you're getting what you get. I'm going to be running a MacBook Pro in a little bit, and I'll see if I can't do something to get this latency down. But this is not a budget issue. What do you have that's not RME that's running better USB drivers? And if you're going to say it has to be something else, I'm running an RME Digiface USB for 32 channels, and I'm fine. You may like. A lot of people are very sensitive to latency. At 128 buffers on the Digiface USB, we're pretty okay. I play guitar and I'm doing fine. It may be worse for a vocalist, though. I could imagine vocals would really suck, but I don't know how you're going to fix that, because you're not really going to get that much lower of latency.
That I just said. So you want your stuff to be performed well, captured well, and have a seamless experience. Now, when we talk about direct monitoring, if you aren't familiar with the word direct monitoring means the ability to hear your vocals directly in your headphones with zero latency, because it bypasses the computer and sends the audio right back to you. The reason that the cheaper interfaces have an issue with this is they are just taking your raw mic signal, no compression, no EQ, no effects, and sending it back to you, which is
exactly what a direct monitor is supposed to do. It'd be nice if you had effects on there, but the price you have to pay for some of these effects, either you're going to get locked into, can I say, I'll just use crappy. You might get locked into really crappy drivers. It's a certain company that a lot of you knuckleheads push that I can't stand. I don't trust in any way, shape, or form. They may be a lot better now, but wow, at the beginning, they really told us customers what we could go do with ourselves. And I've watched them fumble everything they've done. In fact, let's just say, if he's going to say universal audio because it has plugins built in, whatever, man. In my experience, you don't save any DSP by going to those USB dongles, the universal audio dongles. And it's a dongle. It's a dongle. You know the software runs. The one plugin that we know for sure that runs on both platforms can run a bajillion instances natively. And it doesn't even run that much on the stupid dongle chip. The dongle chip does you no good. In my experience, it costs you more CPU and more trouble to run that stupid dongle than if you just ran stuff natively. And the stuff wasn't even that good. I was kind of sad, actually. I'm sure the LA2, I mean, it was fine, but I mean, we got plugins that do the same thing without any of this trouble. Now, if you're talking RME, there are certain RME devices that have effects built in, but are you going to have those on your mix down? You're going to print those to tape or something? Something like a reverb? You don't care about the latency anyway. So if you put the direct monitor on your Focusrite or whatever, assuming you can mix between playback and DAW, just turn the monitoring on. If you really need zero latency monitoring, it's not zero latency, by the way. There's converter latency on the way in. So let's say you're going for your mic, it's going to your interface. When you get to that interface, it's converting to digital. There's a converter hit right there. It could be 2 milliseconds. It could be rather long, actually. But there is a converter latency, so you're going to get a little bit of delay no matter what. But if you're running a reverb in parallel, you're not going to care. Plus, that reverb's already on your mix, so when you go to mix down, you got the same reverb that you used in tracking. The only way you're going to pull that off with the RME thing is if you could do like a reinsert or something like that, I guess. But if you really got to use the direct monitoring, just run it in parallel. I think I have it with me. I've got a Focusrite 4i4. I know this is one of the more expensive ones, but not by much. I mean, they're still El Cheapo. Actually, where did it go? Uh-oh. Oh, here it is. Okay, so here's this 4i4 here. I remember some of them had like a switch for direct monitor, or some of them had a knob. I think this one is actually controlled in the software. And I mean, if that's the case, run them in parallel. You're not getting that latency. So that would be a better solution to me. As much as I love RME, you guys know I love RME. If you're talking about Motu, to go to a Motu to get that, they're good. I like that Motu's M4 and M2 or whatever have a loopback. I'm not sure how well it works, but I don't necessarily want to deal with their software in order to do this. So let's hear this.
Is essentially, if I may say, useless. It is actually a useless function to me to even have that on an interface. It is beyond unusable, because if I am any kind of dynamic as a singer, I'm either going to be way too quiet or way too loud, burning my ears off so I can't hear myself. Have you experienced that? You have.
Okay, so this is a good one here. He needs compression in order to sing well, or he would like compression in order to sing well, and so would many people. This is a problem. So now you're dealing with latency, because this is something that's going to be in the insert path, not like your reverb, because your reverb is going to be fine with latency, delays, all that kind of stuff. If it's an effect that you would normally run in parallel, forget the latency. I mean, not that you don't care, but you don't care that much on this thing. Compression is a different story. That's a problem, and he's right about this. So let's see where we go from here. I don't think his solution is actually, if he actually went and tested it, is going to be all that much better.
If you have one of these interfaces, you've gone through that. So then you go to your computer, you understand maybe a little bit about buffers. You turn it down to 32 samples. You try to turn off as many plugins as you can. You're still having latency issues. That's only if you could possibly get there, and your computer isn't overheating as you're trying to run plugins.
Okay. The number of plugins you have is not going to cause a latency issue. Okay, we got to really. This is a hard one, actually. This is one people get wrong all the time. And it's not necessarily wrong. There's two different issues here. There's an absolute round trip latency, and that's really set by the drivers. That's all there is to it. So you got converter latency, you have your input buffer, you have whatever processing time it takes to do the whatever processing you're doing, and then you have a hidden safety buffer almost always, which you probably run a Mac, knowing you got a beard like that, and you beardos tend to run Macs. You can't necessarily turn off the hidden safety buffer on most of these drivers on Mac the way you would on PC. So, again, the superiority of Windows comes through, but I know how many viewers that love to hear that. So there's that hidden safety buffer, then there's the output buffer, then there's the output analog to or digital to analog converter latency. So those are all your latencies put together. Notice that nowhere in there was the number of plugins. The only thing is that middle spot is whatever processing you're doing. If you're doing a latent process, then yeah, there's a problem. Some processes have to be latent. We make all zero latency plugins, but if you turn on the look ahead, our plugins are no longer zero latency. There's types of EQs that work better with latency. There's types that get phasey, with latency. But anyway, you're not gonna knock down your latency by using less plugins. You're not gonna knock down your latency by getting a faster computer. What you're gonna do is knock down the lowest usable latency, because you can get to this latency, but that doesn't mean it's not gonna be clicking and popping and dropping out all over the place. That's the issue with plugins and CPU and all that stuff. But sadly, the better written drivers also use less CPU at any given latency, and that's something that's been a brutal slap in the face, no matter who or what you are. And again, that's one of the reasons we love RME so much. But that doesn't mean that I can't pull off everything with one of these Focusrite Scarlets or whatever. I would have trouble with the new PreSonus if it's going to clip on a regular guitar input. That's kind of a bummer. But yeah, I can imagine a vocalist is going to be way more sensitive to this kind of thing than I am as a guitar player. I frequently play with wirelesses, and I stand pretty far away from the stage if I can help it. I don't want to be anywhere near my drummer. Sorry, guys. I don't want to be near the drummer, so I will walk as far as I possibly can in that club away from the drums if I have a wireless. So I'm not all that sensitive to latency, and you might be surprised. I'm not going to say I'm Yngwie Malmsteen, but I can play pretty goddamn fast, and it doesn't bother me. But one day I did actually do like a millisecond to beat. Let's see. So I'm going to just look milliseconds to BPM. Yeah, so the tempo BPM. So I'm going to pull up this little chart here. It says enter BPM 120. And it's going to tell me what each note is worth, a quarter note and whatever. So 128th note is 16 milliseconds, okay? So let's say we had, let's go to round trip latency roundup. So you just type this in Google, round trip latency roundup. You'll actually get to our music schools page where I host this. And it has round trip latencies of popular families. This really needs to be updated. And look, it only goes down to 64. Nowadays people are going down like 16 or something. So I need to update this. But let's say it's 64. Let's say at 128, because that's where I'm usually running it. The round trip latency on these Scarlets. Yeah, I don't think this is right anymore. This is the second generation. I got to put the third generation in. I'm assuming that the best Thessicon drivers is what this is going to be like. Let's see, find a USB. PSONAs. I'm going to assume this is somewhere around 10 or 11 milliseconds. And that's what I play. I usually play those things like 128. So it's a 128th note. Maybe a little bit slower, maybe a little bit faster. But that's a little scary. Right? Okay, so let me... Okay. So let me just go back play this. So that gives you an idea of what that latency is. So a 256th note, that would be about the latency of what you're talking about. Now, when you're talking, it sounds eerie to hear any delay on your voice at all. So even in this room, I'm not electronically playing back. I don't hear any electronic stuff coming back. Just the bouncing in this room is driving me nuts, actually. I want to do something about that if I could. Okay, so here we go. Let's go on.
On your vocal chain to get them back to you fast enough. And then you have to decide, do I want to freeze down everything? And then even then, it may not, because like plugins like Soothe 2 by Oak Sound, it's just this whole...
Again, if you're running 1,000 plugins and stuff, that's on you. But again, I know you want to be able to run a lower latency and run more plugins, but this is not exactly the same issue.
Situation where no matter what, you're compromising. And this is what happens when you compromise. When you have to compromise on your recording setup, that means you're compromising on how well you hear yourself. When you compromise on how well you hear yourself, you compromise on the ability to assess, did I give a good take? And when you can't tell if you're giving a good take, you're going to be in your head. What happens when you're in your head? Do you think you're giving the best emotional, transcendent journey of spirit in that performance? No. So now your performances are starting to suffer. So we're in our head, our performances are suffering, which means we're spending more time recording, which means we might have to re-record things more, which means we're going to get less stuff done every single year. And that means less songs out, connecting with less people, less growth of your community, of what you want to do and what your goals are with music making, all starting from this direct monitoring issue.
Okay, so forget that this is about direct monitoring. Whatever this is about, this is the ergonomics thing I'm always talking about. You make stuff easier on yourself, you're going to get better stuff done. I mean, I have it set in that big room. In fact, I got to make a new template because now we got all the new stuff. My big room has the drums all mic'd up. You get in there, you turn it on, you're on. You're ready to record in less than 5 minutes. I could get a whole band in there, unless they're numbnutses and making trouble. I can get a whole band recorded in 5 minutes or ready to record in 5 minutes. That's big time. And he's right. If you make things hard on yourself, you're going to have a hard time recording. You're not going to turn out as good of a product, I don't think.
And this has been the case with so many artists that I've personally worked with.
Unfortunately, I don't think that necessarily that the solutions to this is going to be very well. I mean, go buy a Babyface or whatever. You're going to have that issue that you're not going to have the effects that you recorded with, I think. I mean, I guess you could print them to tape if you're really crazy, but I wouldn't do it. Yeah, it is hard as a vocalist. It may be too trippy to hear your vocals at any latency.
With and help them get to a better solution. Because this is the thing. When you put a song out, you can't go back. You can't.
Well,
it is too important.
Unless you're the Cockney Rejects or something, you put out 400 versions of the same song.
It is quite literally a chapter of your story, a chapter of your life. And once you put that out, people need to connect with it on a deep level. Because if they don't connect with it, they don't believe your performance, if you could have done it better, they're going to go and move on to something else.
I keep saying this about rappers, man. Like, for rappers, man, if it doesn't sound like you believe it, why should anybody else? They're just going to move on to the next guy. Especially you guys that fill your stuff up with, hey, what? Hey. The hell is that? Like, you put in minimal effort? Of course they're going to go to somebody else. There's no point. I mean, you're almost telling people to move on.
I'm not going to listen to it again. I mention all this because this is the true cost. If you think about the actual problems of not having a good direct monitoring system, those are it. And I don't want that for you. Because think about it. How much extra time, how much extra anxiety, how much extra frustration.
I'm almost terrified to think about the solution this guy's gonna offer up. Let's see.
All came from your inability to hear and monitor yourself correctly. That's a lot. That's terrible. So let's not do that. Okay. Can we agree right now?
Okay,
Let's
let's
not
not
do
do
that.
that.
Shake your head no, but then also, yes, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to do that. Yes, we agree with John. Okay. So what can and should we do? Well, there is a better answer. I am not at all sponsored about this. This is me bringing my advice, my perspective, my
Please don't say UA. Please don't say UA. Please don't say UA. And if you say antelope, holy crap. Let's just wait.
on the ground, in the field perspective that every serious music maker should invest in a Universal Audio Apollo interface.
Oh, he said Universal Audio. What did I say? What did I say? Can I get a... I'm just going to take a bow right here. Bow into the internet. So, did I call it from the beginning? I wouldn't use this piece of crap if you paid me. Sorry. I know I should take that back. We're... have to be friendly with all the interface makers. We, as a community, actually several communities, got burned so bad by UA. Even when there was an offer to fix their stuff by probably the best coder in the world when it comes to this audio stuff, for free for their customers, and they turned us down. That thing is a dongle. All right. Universal Audio may be making cool stuff now. I know they have a DAW now, which is actually really cool. I haven't really tried their DAW, but that's kind of cool that they have one. I heard some rumors that there is a new DAW out pushed by a big company that's really just bringing one of the early DAWs back to life, and I think it might have been Traction or something like that. I actually liked Traction. I'm bummed that it didn't get as much traction as it got. But I called that this guy was going to say in Universal Audio. I would stay away from that stuff. I'm sorry. I don't want to burn somebody who's a potential ally, but what are you going to do with this? It's such a... Tell you what, Universal Audio, send me a new one. I'll try it out. I'm not going to buy I'm not going to buy one of these things. At least we can test if the latency is good and stuff. I don't believe for a second that DSP accelerator is worth a crap. It sure could be, but we've been burned so bad on that, and the computers are so fast. It's true. You could do this. I don't think it's zero latency though. Again, John, did you measure this? Is this zero latency? What is the actual round trip latency of let's see, round trip latency Universal Audio plugin. Let's see what happens when you put it. Why am I getting latency in my DAW sessions? Why is there latency when I try to record through UAD plugins? UAD plugins put latency. They're saying there will be no noticeable latency. Apollo Twin have latency. With Apollo, latency is basically indiscernible. How would that be? So it's probably going to be pretty short. Okay, here we go. What kind of round trip latency can I expect when using UAD software? If you're worried about latency while tracking, get an Apollo and use console for its no latency. That's not true. It's not no latency. Enabling live track. UAD latency is normally twice your buffer. Yeah, I'm not getting any actual measurements here. I'm sure that Vin Kergliano or somebody would be able to tell us. 3 lowest latency issues with Thunderbolt. UAD plugins delay compensation. UAD plugin latency chart. Here we go. Post. So somebody made a spreadsheet. Let's see if this thing's any good. So the ones that are going to matter, right? It's like he's probably going to use the LA2A and the 1176. So let's go straight there. What Where is it? LA3A. Where's the LA2A? Okay, hold on. LA2. Nope. Let's try 2A. 2A. There we go. LA2A. Wait, what the hell? This thing uses a. I wonder which UAD they're talking about. Because 16%, that's insane. It's going to use. You can run like 5 of these things on your piece of. I know I shouldn't say it. I'm going to shut up. Okay, Teletronics. Oh, see, one of them uses 3%. One uses 16%. That's interesting. So that legacy must have been the early one, like I used to have. Okay. So latency. Why are they saying? One of them says 0, and one of them says 56 samples. Yeah. Okay. So the legacy one is 0. And you probably get away with it if that's the same one we used to use. It was fine actually. I'm not liking this though. This is 56 samples of latency. Let's look at 1176. 1176. So there's a legacy one. Yeah. See, the new ones use a pile of CPU, and they have 55 milliseconds of latency. So unless you're using this legacy one, you're still, man, that's a lot of latency. 55 milliseconds? Or is that 55 samples? Sorry, not milliseconds. There's no way this can be milliseconds. Let me see what it's in. It should just be samples. I'm betting that this is in samples, not in milliseconds. Yeah, samples. Looks like there's a chart here. Let's see. Okay, blue is 55 samples. So like 55, 56 samples. It's not 0, man. I mean, that might be enough. One sample. So think about what frequency you're at, and how many samples it would take before you could invert the phase through latency. It's not much. That 55 covers it. I guarantee it. Let's just see. Let's see. 55 samples, 2 milliseconds. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll do this later. But anyways, so we're not at 0 latency. We're at like 50 something samples latency, unless you use the 0 latency ones, which you may. But I think everybody doesn't want to use those anymore. They all say legacy, and they're like 0 samples and use very little CPU, which is ideal for tracking. But I like to track how I'm going to mix. But again, I know this is an issue for vocalists, so I'm trying not to be too rigid here. But let's see. But I wouldn't have recommended that thing. But I called it. I knew he would.
Or above. Now, the reason is those interfaces offer an incredibly robust monitoring system.
No.
It does a lot more than what I'm going to tell you about. But one of the main things that it does is it allows you to put on processing on your vocals just for monitoring into your headphones. So within the interface, there's a small processor that allows you to EQ, compress, add effects, add limiting, add whatever you want, all in the interface. So it doesn't go to your computer. It stays right in the interface. It processes it there and then sends it right back to your headphones with 0 latency.
Not 0 latency. Not 0 latency. Those aren't 0 latency. So again, we got the converter latency plus you got the latency of whatever this DSP is doing, and like we show here, it's not going to be 0 unless you're using one of these green. Actually, shit. What is some of these? Some of these green plugins actually have. Okay, yeah, zero latency. Okay. So if you use these green ones, there's actually a lot of them. But again, you aren't monitoring what you're mixing. You're going to still change stuff out. Man, what is this gobbledygook these guys keep pushing? YouTube, you keep nailing us for stuff. Why don't you take care of these guys that keep spamming stuff? All right, so let me go back here.
So imagine this. You get to sit down and sing with a full vocal chain on, with no latency.
Not no latency. Not no latency. Keep saying it, but you're wrong. In fact, except for these legacy zero latency plugins, you're going to get more latency off of this thing than you would at 32 samples with the zero latency plugin. Can you run 32 samples? I don't know. I don't, but I have a feeling that on a modern computer with all this modern stuff, you sure as hell could. So you're actually going to be higher latency than that.
All the effects you want with the EQ, the compression, the shape, the attack, the density, the grit, the cleanness, the intimacy, the grandness of exactly what you want every time you record. That's a pretty compelling reason, right? If you could do that for every time you sat down to record for the next 2 years, how much would that save your sanity?
And I could do that right now with the Focusrite Scarlett. I might plug this thing in and test that myself in 2 seconds here. Let's find out.
The next 2 years, next 5 years, next 10 years, it is exponential. And as much as it can be scary to look at $1,000 price tag, if you think back to the last 2 years of you trying to record on your own, and then taking that 2 years and duplicating it through this and next year, or you can spend $1,000 and have all that go away, would it be worth it? If you do that for 5 years, would it be worth it? Would it be worth it for 2 years if you could get financing for it, which every music place offers financing very simply. You get 0% 2-year financing on that very quickly, and it's like a $50.
Yeah, but then you're running one of these things. This is, I mean, I know he's saying he's not sponsored by these guys, and I believe him. I don't think that he's going to lie about that. But I would not recommend this company. I'm sorry.
$1 a month payment or something ridiculously cheap. Actually, no, it's like 20, 30. I don't know. I'm not math. I am not math. But I have lived too long dealing with that crap and had so many people deal with that for too long. And I cannot let you fall fate to the same thing. So if you have been experiencing that, my recommendation is understand how much of an investment it is for your future and how much it's going to pay back in the future for every recording you do from here forward in perpetuity, or as long as we live. This is not the only interface that does this. This is just the main one. I'm sure there are others out there. I'm of the type of personality that when I see something that works, I just go get it, and I don't want to spend all my time thinking about it. I want to go do the thing that I'm here to do, not being a professional shopper. So if you know of other alternatives or other ways to get around this problem, please let me know in the comments down below. No, I do not think this is a Scarlett issue, but yes, this is a budget interface issue. I want you to go out there and I want you to have a great time recording, and I don't want that to be another obstacle with the hundreds that we have to face every single day. Let's take care of one that we feasibly can and we can finance responsibly and enjoy the recording process once again. So thank you.
Okay, what he's saying would work. It may actually help for a lot of you guys. But looking at their drivers, I doubt this is much faster than the newest Focusrites. Okay, so we're going to do something stupid. I'm going to plug this thing in. It's probably going to mess the system all up. But what we're really going to do is I'm going to plug an output to an input, and we're going to test something right here. I'm going to turn off all the stuffs and thingamajiggers. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if we can think of some good way to do this, okay? So here's output. Then we'll take the line output 1. Let's just hope that's whatever. We'll figure out this routing. And I'm going to plug this into the input. Okay? That should be enough. Now, this can be the ugly part because Windows is going to try and swap all these inner cards around and inputs and outputs. But let's just see what we get here. And I'm going to show you a couple things if I can get this to work. Check, 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 check. Okay, I'm still talking. Focus rate control. Let's see if that's still going. Check, 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 check. Discord is going. Where's my focus rate control software? I don't see it. This guy plugged in. It is plugged in. Let's just put that off to the side for a second. Actually, put it off to this side for a second. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do a couple little trickety things here, but let's first open up Reaper. I'm gonna change the audio to ASIO. Focusrite USB ASIO, output 1 and 2, input 1 and 2. Let's see, how can we do this? ASIO configuration. Come on, Focusrite, pop up. Okay, here we go. Buffer size 192. I'm going to go down to 64. Okay, where's the Focusrite control software? I'm going to need it. There we go. I'm not super thrilled with this Focusrite control software, by the way. Mixing routing. Here we go. Okay, so I want line outputs 1 and 2. Go back 1 and 2. Line outputs 3 and 4. Where's line outputs 1 and 2? Software playback is going to line outputs 3 and 4. Where's back dot? It's going on 1 and 2. Or hardware input 1 and 2 output. So that's 1 and 2. I guess that's the speaker outs. Okay. Okay, I think this is right. I'm going to turn off latency compensation. Oh, that's not cool. Okay, so audio devices, audio device, buffering. Okay, disable anticipative effects. Okay, what I want to do is turn off the all right there. Use driver ported latency. Okay, so we're gonna do this manually. I swear there's a way to turn off the latency compensation. Device. Where is it? Well, tracks. So I'm just looking for latency right now. Use driver reported latency. No. That might be all you really need to do now. Well, tracks. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I think that's it. Well, let's just test it. So I'm gonna put a let's just do this project as latency test. Okay, so this is what we do. I don't just talk about stuff. We're gonna show it here. And you goddamn spammers, get off my stuff, man. Insert click source. I'm just gonna take one of these little blips and I'm gonna let's see. We're gonna use this to tell. So I'm just gonna glue this. Okay, so I'm gonna play this out 1 and 2. Okay, and I'm gonna record it on 1. Okay, click source, and this is gonna be recording. So we're gonna see the latency here with 64 buffers, and this is just gonna be output to input, right? It's not gonna be the other way around. That's okay. So I'm just gonna hit record here, and let's see what happens. There we go. Did it record? I don't think so. Okay, what did I do wrong? I'm gonna loop this for a second until I figure this out. Okay, why is this not getting input 1? So this one's gonna go out. Output 1. And I'm going to do this pre-fader post effects. Okay. Let me just say one more time that compensation is off. I don't actually trust this. Comp. I'm just going to put comp. See if that finds something. Anticipative effects processing. No, so no compensate. I think this is it. Okay, so we're going to try this again. So I'm going to hit record. Okay. So I'm going to change this to minutes and seconds, which it already is. So let's measure this. So let's just read this. So 64 samples plus whatever hidden safety buffer we get. We should be getting at least 64 samples, right? We got it coming out. We got it coming out and we got it coming in. I'm not billion% sure about one of these, but so I'm going to put a marker here, I'm going to put a marker here, and we're going to measure roughly between the markers. What do we got? Where did you move this to? Okay, length of time. 0.3 milliseconds. And that's about what we got, or 3 milliseconds, sorry. And that's about what we got as our output buffer, right? So let's put this in samples. Just right, 84,402 samples for 3 milliseconds. I don't think so. I think something wrong is going to happen here. Samples, seconds, 1.913 seconds. There's no way it's 1. It's not a second between those. Hold on. Let me see what's going on here. Nope. Okay, something is wrong with my recording. Okay, 140 samples. So roughly the input sample and the output sample, which comes out to 128 plus another, but 16, 14 or so. Is that available? Let's take a look. ASIO configuration. Yeah, see this particular driver doesn't have. This is like some of the Behringer drivers don't have this either. This is looking more like what you get on a Mac, where you can't really change what you're doing. Like, yeah, it's freaking Macs. I got a MacBook Pro coming, and I'm really kind of freaked out. Okay, so that's what we got. 140 samples. Okay. What you would be doing? Well, let's just see. Let's see how much. We're gonna be running the same. I guarantee those UA drivers not going to be any better than these regarding the round trip latency. I wouldn't be surprised if they're far worse. I mean, they don't have a very good track record, from what I remember, of doing low latency, high plug-in counts. The absolute benchmark from that, of course, is DAW Bench, but I'm not really sure what we can do there. So let's say you're going to run those plugins, and here we go. So I'm going to put on the monitoring track, I'm going to put our, I don't have the newest. Should I put the newest on? Okay, give me a second. While we're here, we're going to do something fun. This computer doesn't have these yet. Okay, let me just go for each. So I'm going to go to, shouldn't really do the reverb. I'm going to grab it anyway, but that's neither here nor there, because the reverb can work in parallel. Let me just get this real quick. I'm getting the reverb. And sorry guys, if you're on Windows, I can get you these right now. But this is we're having a trouble with the Pace installer. Again, this is another reason not to deal with this stuff, but we'll deal with it. Okay, so that's the reverb. There's drum EQ, dynamic EQ, and intuition. That's going to be the biggies. Okay, dynamic EQ and intuition. Here's the newest intuition. Okay, so I'm just going to take all these and throw them in the VST3 folder. Okay, pop Reaper back up. So then we go intuition and dynamic EQ. Let's make sure they're actually getting through there. So let me delete this again. Arm this guy. Okay, so now we're hammering on the compressor. Obviously working. And so I'm going to turn this off and take a recording. Okay. And lo and behold, still the same latency. Right? 140 samples still right there. Haven't made any difference at all by putting those plugins in the path. So if you can run your stuff down to 64 samples, you're not going to save anything with that UA. It's still 50 something samples. It's so close. And if I go to 32, oh, this is probably going to crash. Let's just see. I'm on request sample rate. Why should I request block size? Let me try this again. Yeah, see, on Mac you have to do something funny with this. 48. Wow. I don't think this thing's going to go down to 16, but let's try 32. This could be really ugly. So 32. I'm going to duplicate this track. So this is 64. There's going to be 32 samples. Okay. Now who knows? Because before UA used to do some funny thing, or not UA. These Thesicon drivers would do some funny things when you start getting lower, like that safety buffer would pop up big time. Let's just see what this is right off the bat. Oh, that is fast. And I was measuring this wrong. Sorry, guys. Okay, sorry. We're going to do this again. Sorry. Yeah, I knew I was screwing something up. Let's get this. Okay. So here's our actual 307 samples. So that's 128 plus whatever the hell else is going on. Some kind of hidden safety buffer. 128 samples. But again, that could be the driver reported latency. So let's call that 0. Let's see what happens at 32. So 32, it is. Yeah, sorry for that colossal logic fail, guys. That was on me. That's bad. Very bad. No cookie. Okay. So now we're at 163. Okay, so this makes more sense. This is the buffer. But see, 32 plus 32, 64. That's a little weird. So what did we just save between these two? So we dropped 146 samples between these two guys here. So 146 samples by going from 64 to 32. But the point is, that's with effects. You want to make one without effects? And what we should see here is the exact same latency. So let's see if we get that. Okay. Exactly the same, right? If I turn this one back on. Yeah, see, and when I tell you guys that it's hard to see these waveforms, it's hard to see these waveforms. Um, these gray ones look muted. I mean, to me anyway. But here they are. They're the exact same whether you got the plugins on or not. The plugins are zero latency for the most part, or for if you're going to put them in here. So the whole thing that matters is your monitoring latency. You're not going to get less monitoring latency with this UA. In fact, I'm almost sure you're going to get more because you're going to add 55 milliseconds to your monitoring chain. If I'm willing to add 55 milliseconds, I can double this right now, and I'll still get less. So that's what you're saving by getting one of those UA things. I can't, whatever. It might be good now. I mean, for all I know, they really fixed their drivers up and stuff. But yeah, I would caution you before you go buying stuff like that. That's probably not going to matter. Anyhow, I'm going to take off from this stream, and hopefully John doesn't slag me too much for this, but this is how I see it.